All right, first case we'll take up today is Megan Boswell, 72869. All right, Ms. Boswell's here in court by video from jail holding. Mr. Sproles is present by video. Teresa Nelson with the District Attorney's Office is present by video. We're here today for an arraignment. However, in reviewing the court file, it appears that the case has not been submitted to the grand jury. General, where are we on the grand jury action?
Your Honor, the state had hoped to have her indicted by today's date. However, the voluminous nature of the file, we've not been able to have that case presented to the grand jury. And for the court's benefit, I know you're not aware, but Mr. Sproles is aware, and he has attempted to view in my presence, the two of us have attempted to begin reviewing the recorded interviews of the defendant. And Mr. Sproles, I think, would confirm there's more than probably 25 hours of just video interview of the defendant. And it is necessary for me to review all of that material before that case is presented to the grand jury. I have been working on that, but at this point, I'm not quite ready. I think Mr. Sproles would confirm. I mean, it requires multiple hours just to get through one recorded interview.
All right. What's your time frame? What are you thinking? How far out do I need to?
If we could set another appearance date, possibly in June, the goal would be that she would be indicted either on May the 20th or the next grand jury in June.
So that would be we'll set it for June the 19th at 9 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Judge, that's fine. We would ask to set an earlier date. We'd like the court to take a second look at her bond in light of the situation here with the how long it's taken to complete the investigation. So if we can have an earlier date, we'll have a bond motion filed with our reasons for the court to review it.
How long do you need to get that filed?
Judge, I drafted it this week, but I want to tweak it a little bit. So I can have it filed early next week.
Judge, would it be possible for us to, if we do set an earlier date, for it to be after that May 20th date? That's the next, I think that's the next grand jury.
I'm going to leave it on June 19th right now.
That's fine.
But I'll set a bond, just set a bond motion for May the 28th. At 9 o'clock.
And Your Honor, I would just ask that it be filed close enough in time so I have time to respond.
Mr. Sproles, you said you'll get that filed next week?
I'll file it next week.
Okay. All right.
I will. Like I said, I've drafted most of it. I just need to review it. And I think I was muted earlier, but I confirmed what General Nelson was saying. We started watching those videos together, but it's just time consuming.
All right. Okay. So, Mr. Sproles,
And
you'll
Judge, one other issue.
go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Judge.
I was gonna say you'll
One
have
other
your
issue that we may.
you go, and then I'll talk.
Go ahead, Judge.
Okay. Mr. Sproles will have
one
his.
other issue is on the. I'm not going to say anything else.
You'll have your motion amended motion to rehear the bond hearing filed no later than May 15th. We'll have the bond hearing on May 28th. If she's not indicted on that day, we'll have the arraignment for June the 19th. Those court dates are all at 9 o'clock. Now, what were you saying? One other issue is what?
Judge, one of the issues on the order, the protective order that was filed under seal, the court interlineated an additional part of that I'd like to address, but that may be something we need to do in chambers since it's filed under seal.
All right, if you want to file something for me to look at.
Okay, I'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Is that pleading, Judge? Will that pleading be filed under seal since it references something that you have placed under protective order?
Yes.
So I'll just tell the clerks when I
have them
file
make
it,
a copy so I can look at it and file it under seal. Okay. Anything else?
No, Judge.
No, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Boswell. That's all for today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And Judge, Miss Nelson and I also have Alicia Hurd.
Okay. Alicia Hurd is 66, 864, 68, 936. All right, Ms. Hurd is here. Go ahead, Mr. Sproles.
Judge, on Miss Hurd's case, and I've not had a chance to talk to her, so I don't know if she knows this, but she was referred to the drug court, or recovery court, and the evaluation was done, and on Wednesday, late in the day, we got the results that she did not qualify for the drug or for the recovery court.
Right. She was at high risk kind of.
They immediately turned around and made a referral to Tin Rocks. And I spoke with Miss Hoskins yesterday about that. She was not able to get the evaluation done on one day's notice, and that's understandable. She said that she did think she could get the evaluation done next week, and asked if we could set it the following week.
May 21st.
May 20 is in 20.
21.
21. That'd be fine, Judge.
All right.
And then, Judge, if the court would consider a bond monitoring or an ankle monitor or something for Miss Hurd so she could go ahead and get out. We've kind of drug this along. No, nobody's fault. It's just taken a while to get her to the point where we're getting an evaluation by 10 rocks. Sorry, go ahead, Judge.
Make that motion on the 21st. Oh, I want her right where she's at for the evaluation. Literally every single person who we've tried to evaluate for recovery who has been out of jail either has not cooperated. And I'm not going to take that chance with Ms. Hurd. I think she needs the program.
Understood,
So,
Judge.
Okay. All right. May 21st at 9 o'clock. Thank you, Ms. Hurd.
Thank you.
No. Correct.
Judge, I think that was all I had today.
Okay. Have a good weekend.
You too. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. I think I have all the lawyers. Nope.
Did you already bring them down? I saw him later.
All right. Who's next? Ms. Lester, who do you have?
I have Michael Jones for bond motion.
Judge, I don't know. My video is not working. Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on.
Jones.
Also, my witness or victim says she's signed in. Can you see?
Do you know?
What type of phone are you on? A Samsung Galaxy 850.
Okay. Go see Mr. Jones.
All right, I see your phone. So hang on just a second. The judge is gonna let you in, and then I'll hang up and we'll just do by Zoom. Okay.
Bird and House Rock.
Ladies.
And I've got saying that she was supposed to be on the docket, Ferguson, but she's not on there.
Do you see our order today?
Do what? Oh, good. Thank you.
If you're not involved in the Jones case, I need you to mute. I still don't. The Galaxy 850 General Render, I don't have a video, and she's not signed up. She's not got her audio going.
Judge, I see her. Can you hear her?
No, it says connecting to audio.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Now you see there's a little red thing at the bottom of your screen, Lucretia, that says it shows that you're muted. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'm gonna hang up. Okay. You stay on your phone.
Thank you.
Ma'am, go ahead and mute until we call you as a witness, okay?
Lucretia, he's telling you to put it back on mute for a minute.
I did it.
There
I
you
went ahead and did it. All right, Ms. Lester, are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you going to call Mr. Jones
Yes, thank you. We'll call Mr. Jones.
for the limited purpose of the bond hearing?
Yes.
Mr. Jones, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, you need to speak up for me. Go ahead.
Thank you, Judge. Sir, can you please state your name for the court?
My name is Michael Antoine Jones.
And Mr. Jones, are you currently incarcerated?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been incarcerated?
5 months.
And at this point, are you being held on any other charge besides what you're charged with here in criminal court?
No, ma'am, no other.
Prior to becoming incarcerated, where did you live?
488 Meadowview Road, Bristol, Tennessee.
And was that with Ms. Mann?
Yes, ma'am.
And if the court were to grant you a bond that you could make, would you have a different place that you could live?
Yes, ma'am.
Where would that be?
3874 Rocky Hill Lane.
Is that in Bluntville or Bristol, Kingsport? Where's that at?
Kind of Hawkins County.
Okay. Who would be living there with you?
My mom,
What's her name?
Janetta Foster.
Has Ms. Foster ever been convicted of a felony crime before?
No, ma'am.
If the court were to impose a restriction that you have no contact of any kind, direct or indirect, with Ms. Mann, the alleged victim in this case, would you have any problem complying with that?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Do you and Ms. Mann have any children together?
No, ma'am.
Do you have any reason that you would need to have any contact with her?
No, ma'am, not at all.
Have you ever been in any kind of trouble before?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony crime?
Yes, ma'am.
What kinds of felonies have you been convicted of?
Right now, I really can't remember. Head trauma.
Okay. Do you know about how long it's been since you've been in any kind of trouble?
2013.
Okay. Have you ever failed to appear in court before?
No, ma'am.
Have you ever been convicted of crime involving moral turpitude, like lying, stealing, cheating, like a larceny charge or any charge like that?
No.
Prior to becoming incarcerated, were you employed?
Yes, ma'am.
Where were you employed?
The courtyard at Comfort Inn at exit 14.
Do you know whether or not at this point that you might still have that job available to you if you were to be released?
No, ma'am.
Have you worked on obtaining any kind of employment since you've been incarcerated?
No, ma'am.
If you were to be released from incarceration, is that one of the goals that you would be trying to do, trying to get employment?
Yes, ma'am.
At this point in time, is there anything else that you would like to tell the court about why the court should lower your bond?
Because, basically, since this case been going on, I haven't been in no trouble. I've been an upstanding citizen since 2013. I've been in the movie. I've been on TV 3 times. A lot of people know me. And other than that, I haven't been in no trouble since 2013.
Are you concerned with your safety at the jail at this point?
Yes, ma'am.
What are your concerns about that?
The gang activity.
And
also,
have you been in any kind of trouble at the jail?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us a little more about that?
Well, there was an inmate that's been fired from his job 2 times, and he was put in my cell, and he had stolen some of my items out of my basket, and I just, I asked friends of his to get my stuff back, and they surrounded me and told me I had to leave, and they came within arm's reach of me, and I hit the guy because I was scared, and I got that right here.
Okay. Were any charges filed against you?
No, ma'am, just the inside assault case, and I'm in the hole right now.
Okay. Has that been resolved?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So your punishment is to remain in the hold?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Right now you have a $25,000 bond, is that correct?
No,
Or, sorry, that might be, is $25,000, is that a bond amount that you or your family could afford?
I can't say.
Okay. What would be a reasonable amount of bond do you think your family could afford?
Probably 15,000.
Okay. Do you feel like you have a drug problem?
Not at all.
Okay. So if you were to be released, there'd be no need to really monitor you. Have any of your prior convictions included drug offenses?
No, ma'am. None at all.
Okay. So at this point in time, you don't feel like it's necessary for you to be monitored for substance abuse?
No, ma'am.
Would you be willing to comply with maybe a home electronic monitor or reporting to a pretrial service officer, or maybe report for drug screening? Any restriction other than that the court would impose, would you be willing to comply with those things?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you currently have a driver's license?
No, ma'am.
What about your mom? I'm sorry, I can't read my writing. Miss Foster, what was? Does she have a driver's license?
Yes.
Okay. Would she be able to transport you back and forth for purposes of court or anything like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know, does she have a home phone in her home?
Yes, ma'am. I'm not.
All right. Please answer any questions that the state may have for you. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, you've been charged in 2009 with a case in Texas. What was that?
I was getting a ride to go get me a bus ticket to come back to Tennessee, and there was some drugs found with 4 people in the car. Nobody claimed them, so everybody got that charge.
Okay, what were you doing in Texas?
With Miss Mann.
Okay, and but you just testified when Miss Lester asked you questions if you had any drug charges, and you denied that, but you did in fact have drug charges in 2009, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you also had drug charges in 1997, a simple possession.
But like I said, ma'am, I've been having head trauma.
Okay. Your history, your criminal history goes back to 1995, doesn't it?
Yes.
And how old are you now?
44.
Okay. So starting in 1995, you were charged with an escape and theft of vehicle and a larceny charge. Is that correct?
Escape and a larceny. I can't remember. I really can't.
All right. So if your history showed that you pled guilty to escape, you couldn't deny that.
I can't. I can't.
And in 1997, you had multiple charges of theft, aggravated burglary, carrying a prohibited weapon, simple possession, assault, and reckless endangerment, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then in 1998, you were charged with a reckless endangerment and a failure to appear.
Ma'am, and the judge and everybody that's on the screen, I really can't recall none of this. I really can't. It was one simple fact that when I seen Miss Mann the first time, almost 3-4 years ago, I really couldn't tell who she was because of the head trauma.
So if I'm getting this from your criminal history, so you can't deny the FTA and the reckless endangerment from 1998.
can't recall, ma'am.
Okay. So if your criminal history shows you were charged with domestic assault and failure to appear in 2001, can you remember that?
No, ma'am, I can't.
Do you remember being charged in 2002 with another domestic assault?
I really can't, ma'am.
Okay. Do you remember being charged in 2003 with another assault?
Ma'am, I really can't.
All right. 2005, did you plead guilty to a burglary or aggravated burglary charge? If you remember.
I think that's a charge in Nashville, right?
I don't know the city, but it's in Tennessee.
I do recall that one.
Okay. And then in 2006, were you charged with child abuse and probation violation?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you pled guilty to that?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And then in 2008, you were charged with 2 counts of domestic assault and a domestic vandalism?
Yes, ma'am.
And then in 2009, another domestic assault charge?
Yes, ma'am.
And then in 2012, a weapons charge and a domestic assault?
No weapons, just a domestic on that one.
Okay. Was the weapon offense, was it dropped?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
I think it was 2013.
Okay. And in 2013, you had a identity theft, driving on revoked, and a probation violation?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have family that lives outside of the state of Tennessee?
Grandmother, sister, my mom's uncle,
Where do they live, please?
Chicago and Atlanta.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have of this witness, Judge.
Redirect, Mr. Lester.
Sir?
Thank you. You testify, Mr. Jones, that you do have some family that lives outside of the state of Tennessee. Do you have any reason that you would need to go see those family? Are you close to any of those family members at this point?
Unless it'd be a death in the family.
Okay. And at this point in time, do you have any other reason that you would need to leave the state, such as medical reasons, doctor's appointments, employment, anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Okay. And you would be living in Hawkins County?
Well, it's either Hawkins or Sullivan County, because when you hit a curve, it says Hawkins County, and when you come back up the curve, you can see the sign. So I think it's Sullivan County. Well, it's Sullivan County, ma'am. That's my mom's address.
Okay, but so your family could give us that information if the court were to reduce your bond, and that be a condition. I could get that information to the court within the day. Do you feel like that's fair to say?
I can give it to you right now.
Okay.
3837 Kingsport, Tennessee, 37660.
Okay, is that still Rocky Hill Lane?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and it's Kingsport, Tennessee.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
I don't have any further questions. No.
Any other proof, Ms. Lester?
No, Your Honor.
Any proof, General?
Yes, I'd like to question Lucretia Mann. Ms. Mann, can you unmute yourself?
Getting it.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Mann, raise your right hand.
Oh.
State your
Sorry.
name. State your name.
Lucretia Mann,
Spell your last name for the court reporter.
Mann.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead, General.
Ms. Mann, you're the alleged victim in state of Tennessee versus Michael Jones, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the offense is alleged to have occurred on October 21st of 2019.
Yes, it did.
Okay. And I contacted you with regards to the bond hearing to let you know what was going on, right?
Yes, ma'am, you sure did.
And you had some concerns about the bond. So I'd like for you to share with the judge what your concerns were.
My concern is that if you lower his bond or allow him to get out, that he will finish the job because he meant to kill me. And one of his last words to me were that I was effing stupid, that he knew where my whole GD family lived and he's not scared to come after them.
Okay, thank you. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
Ms. Lester Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Mann, you heard Mr. Jones testify about prior to becoming incarcerated, where he lived and the address. Is that substantially correct to your knowledge?
No, ma'am, it's not. He was staying with a lady named Lori Jones that he has a child by that is 23 or 4 years old. He was staying with her in her mother's basement. In her mother and father's basement. He wasn't at his mother's house.
Ma'am, I believe he testified he lived with you.
He lived with me before all this happened. Prior to October the 21st, he lived with me.
So on the day that this event happened, he was living with you?
Correct.
And he's been incarcerated since?
No, he did not get incarcerated till December the 8th.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Redirect.
No, sir. Thank you, Ms. Mann.
Any other proof?
Just argument, Judge.
Ms. Lester? Any other proof?
No further proof, Your Honor.
Argument?
Yes. Your Honor, Mr. Jones has been held continuously for 5 months on charges that I don't think he's been indicted on yet. And I do not know, given our current situation, when he stands to go before the grand jury. Can you hold on just a second, Judge? Hold on just a second, sorry.
Sounds like your law clerks were getting rowdy.
Yes, my coworkers are not happy that their games are dead from yesterday. I'm sorry, Judge. Mr. Jones has been held continuously. He does have a bond that was set by the Sessions Court, and he's not been able to make that bond. He's testified here today that his family could probably afford a $15,000 bond. He's concerned for his safety in the jail, and I'm concerned about his safety as well. Mr. Jones is currently housed at Sullivan County, and they're doing a really great job at protecting the inmates there. But we still have a very active concern for a coronavirus spread in all of our jails, and we've had a lot of our prisons have large numbers of inmates test positive. And so that's very concerning to me, given our current situation and just our lack of knowledge of when, when this may end, when this case may be tried. I am concerned. I do feel like that he would be a good candidate to be released. Our general concerns about the threat that he would be to the alleged victim in this case, Ms. Mann, I think are mitigated by the fact that he would be living in at a different address with his mother. I have had contact with his family And they have substantiated the claim that, they are willing to do what is necessary. I did not have any of them here today, but they have, expressed to me that they would be willing to do what they needed to do to assist Mr. Jones in being released. I think there are reasonable things that the court could impose, like home electronic monitoring, or maybe reporting to a pretrial officer, that could ensure that Mr. Jones is doing what he needs to do while he's out on bond. So if the court were to reduce his bond, and ask the court to consider reducing his bond to an amount his family could afford at $15,000, and maybe placing him on home electronic monitoring or any other restrictions the court thinks are appropriate, that would ensure that we would be able to know where Mr. Jones is. If he goes where he is not supposed to be, then we would know that, and we would be able to bring him back to jail. The prior criminal record that I believe the general brought up, the majority of those cases, they are cases that are 20 plus years old at this point. The last failure to appear, which Mr. Jones does not know, exactly is that the case or not. And without knowing where that's at and having time to look at that, I would have no way to provide any proof to the court that he was convicted of these charges or not. But regardless, they show on his criminal record. So at this point, though, I'd ask the court to just weigh the fact that these cases are now 20 plus years old. The last time he was in trouble was in 2013 by his own admission, and he's not been in trouble since. So it sounds like to me that he had he has had a run where he has been a law-abiding citizen and now stands a lot more to lose. He was out there getting his life together. So to ask the court to take all those things into consideration, consider lowering his bond, and consider maybe imposing some of the restrictions the court can to ensure that he is where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be, and Ms. Mann is safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Solicitor General.
Judge, first off, this case is set to go to grand jury on May 20th, assuming that everything with grand jury goes fine. The charges that will be presented are 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping, which are non-probatable, 2 counts of aggravated domestic assault, in which weapons were used, one being a shotgun, one being a hammer, 1 count of domestic assault, an interference with 911, domestic vandalism, and a felony reckless endangerment, Judge. So the seriousness of the charges should be considered. The bond is presumed correct from Sessions Court. The defendant, while some of his cases may be 20 years old, he has consistently over the last 20 years picked up new charges from 1995 to 2013 to present. The bulk of those charges being assaults, domestic assaults. So he has a history of violence. He has ties outside the state of Tennessee, and he doesn't seem to remember certain things, but he has been charged in the past with failures to appear, an escape of which he pled guilty to. So the state's going to, Judge, submit to you that the bond should stay where it's at until we get the case going, but it will go to grand jury on May 20th. And would ask you to also consider that Ms. Mann, the words that she said, where she's fearful for her safety should the defendant be released on a lower bond.
Barry, dial 133.
One question that I have for the lawyers is his bond started out at $25,000 and the general sessions judge increased it to $50,000. Do either of you know why? Did he fail to appear in court? Was he late for court?
I don't know, Judge. You'll let me flip through and see if I've got any notes.
I don't have any notes reflecting, Judge.
Judge, my only note reflects that the bond was increased to 50,000. We did have a preliminary hearing in Sessions Court, so the court did have the opportunity to hear from Ms. Mann. I don't think that the state produced any other evidence at that point. I believe it was just Ms. Mann. I do not have any note about the reason for the increase, just that it was, and that the court found probable cause. So
it looks like
So it was increased. Sorry.
It looks like the bond was increased from 25 to 50 after the general sessions judge heard
The prelim.
the proof that he heard from the preliminary hearing, because that's the day the order changed. It was on December the 18th, and that's when the preliminary hearing was.
that's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. And did you represent him at the preliminary hearing?
I did.
Okay. All right. From the proof that I've heard, it appears that Mr. Mann doesn't remember much of his criminal history, but when General Render asked him questions about it, looking at his rap sheet, basically, a lot of those crimes were of violent nature. Mr. Jones testified that the reason he's fearful for his safety is because of the nature of the other inmates. I think he said gang activity, the fact that he's gotten into a fight with someone who he perceived to have been stealing from him. He did not testify that he was in any way concerned about the pandemic that's going on, the virus. He did not testify to any health issues that he has. The bond is presumed to be correct under Tennessee law. Mr. Jones testified that he does have family ties outside the state of Tennessee. Mr. Jones is charged with violent crimes, which would preclude him from being considered for pretrial release. The pretrial release program is only for nonviolent offenders. Based on the proof that I've heard, weighing the bond factors that I must, court's of the opinion that his bond is where it should be. It will remain at $50,000, and the motion for bond reduction is denied. We will set this for.
He goes to grand jury 520, Judge.
All right. So we'll set this for 529. Give the clerks time to get the paperwork squared away from grand jury.
Thank you.
May 29th at 9 o'clock. Does that work for you, Miss Lester?
It does, Your Honor. My office had been working with your office, and I think they had set the date of Friday, June 5th. It's
that's fine with me too.
Yeah, either way, but
all right, June 5th is fine. At 9 o'clock. June 5th at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jones. That's all for today.
I believe that's all I had, Judge. Thank you.
Miss Mann, you can disconnect or hang up, and I'll call you.
Ms. Jones.
All right. It looks like they're having an issue in holding. We'll take about a 5-minute break.
We're good, Judge. Yeah, I know. put this on here.
Okay, we're back. Who do we need?
I have one plea and I have a bond hearing.
Judge, I had two people that were out of custody that were also going to be zooming in.
Okay, I've got 2 people who are waiting in the waiting room.
I would go ahead and do hers then if she's got them waiting in the waiting room.
Okay.
Is Machen one of them? Matthew Machen? Yeah, I think he was using his mom's email. Yes, he's just for arraignment. Well, just reset, I think.
There he is. This is Matthew Machen, 71871. He's previously been arraigned, Ms. Tiller, on January 6, 2020.
Yes, Your Honor, that's right. The district attorney's office just provided me with the cruiser video in this case a few weeks ago, and Mr. Machen has not had an opportunity to review that. So I would ask for another reset.
July the 10th at 9 o'clock.
I'm sorry, you said July 10th?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Mr. Machen?
Yes.
Okay. July 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Machen. That's all for today.
All right, thank you.
And who's next, Ms. Tiller?
Judge, I don't know if you want to take this matter now or later. Brandon Kessler had filed a pro se motion to waive the balance of his fines and costs, and I facilitated him trying to appear by Zoom. General Harper and Ms. Elias also are involved on that, but I can fill in some of the background about.
Let me get Mr. Kessler in. And Miss Elias was here.
Here, Judge.
All right, go ahead, Miss Tiller. Miss Elias is coming in.
Yes, sir. Mr. Kessler was appointed the public defender, and at that point, he had owned a home, and I believe he put it on his affidavit of indigency that his previous tax return, he had made something like $50,000. And you had ordered partial reimbursement to the state for an attorney for $5,000. Mr. Kessler, I believe, will tell you about his house. He ended up becoming pretty behind on his payments, was never able to get a new job. He ended up spending about 6 months in jail on this case. So he wasn't able to go out and work and hire somebody. And now he is at a rehab in South Carolina. I believe his probation was supposed to be complete this week, and he had done everything except have his fines and costs paid off. And Mr. Kessler can tell you how much he thinks he's paid on his fines and costs, but I believe he told me it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $800 that he's paid towards them. So he's asking you to reconsider the $5,000 attorney fee, given the amount of time he spent in jail on this case.
Okay. I don't have a problem waiving the assessment of the partial reimbursement of the attorney fee, given his changed financial situation. It sounds like he's. Raise your right hand, Mr. Kessler. You solemnly swear affirm testimony about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes.
Did your house go into foreclosure?
Yes, Judge. As Leslie mentioned, I was in jail for 6 months, and the house and the car that I had are no longer in my possession. The house was foreclosed on, and the car I had to file bankruptcy on April the 29th.
All right. I'm going to waive the assessment of the $5,000 attorney fee.
Thank you.
Based on changed financial situation. Are you still in rehab?
I'm in rehab in South Carolina. I've completed the 4-month program, and I'm in transitional living now. So I am working. I've started working January the 6th of this year.
At this point, I'm not going to waive the actual fines and costs.
That's fine.
So I want you to make some payments on
Judge,
that.
we don't have any problem with him being placed on unsupervised probation at this point.
There's a violation of probation that's been filed by Miss Elias with $1,000 OR bond. I don't think I can, until I get him arraigned, I don't think that I can put him on unsupervised. Not general. Miss Tiller, would you accept service for him?
Mr. Kessler, do you want me to accept service of the violation for you?
What does that mean exactly?
Oh, I think what the judge is saying is if I accept service of the violation, then he probably will be able to place you on unsupervised.
Okay, yes.
So what I'm going to do.
Can I ask one thing, Judge? I thought he may have paid enough if you do waive that $5,000 that he would have paid what he needed to pay.
As of today, I've paid $1,050. The court system online shows that being reflected.
He only owes 135. He's paid everything but 135. Okay, I'm going to, since he's done well in rehab, I want to waive the $135 that he also has, and I'm going to recall the warrant. Now, Miss Elias, since you're there and I don't have a copy of the warrant, is his probation over?
Yes, Judge. It expired on May the 6th.
Okay, then I'm going to waive the $135 as well as the $5,000. Recall the warrant, and you'll be finished, Mr. Kessler, with probation.
Okay, thank you, Judge.
All right, your case is closed, and good luck on your continued recovery.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Elias, do you have anything else?
Not today, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, have a good weekend.
You too.
Mr. Hill, is that G7NQ? Is that you? Did I don't know. Did you log in? And I haven't accepted you yet. The waiting. Make sure you turn your volume all the way down. Otherwise, we'll have a feedback situation since you're in here.
Judge, I had one other brief matter.
Okay, who's that?
Well, he's a for appointment. It'd be a short form on new cases. Warren Hilton. I already represent him on several other cases.
Warren McDaniel Hilton, 72935, 72936. Who's queen today?
Wes is.
Okay. Mr. Hilton, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes.
Mr. Hilton, are you making more money now than you were when I first appointed you to the public defender's office?
No.
I'm going to appoint the public defender in 72935 and 936. They're already in your other cases.
Okay.
Where are those cases set, Ms. Tiller? Do you know?
June 12th.
Then we'll set these two cases to June 12th to match them up. June 12th at 9 o'clock, Mr. Hilton. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Okay. Are you seeing this?
Yes. Take you back.
And
I was just going to take it.
did you just get a message to start your video?
Yeah.
Who do you have? Michael Comer. Comer, 68250.
Come on in. Have a seat right here.
All right, Mr. Comer, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give me the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Hill. We're here on a bond motion, I think you said. Can you hear him, Mr. Comer?
No.
You have to turn your microphone on. Turn the microphone on. But turn the volume on your phone down. Does that make sense? There should be a little microphone icon somewhere on there. There you go.
Judge.
You're connecting to the audio.
Am I here?
You're here.
Okay.
Not yet. You haven't connected into the.
Teresa Kilroy Nelson.
Good morning, Mr. Kennedy.
Okay, now talk, Mr. Hill.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Just make sure you keep the volume turned off. Not the microphone, the volume. Okay.
Thanks.
So we're here on a bond, a motion to set bond. Mr. Comer is before the court in case 68250 on a violation warrant. Just one, right?
On the 17th, 18-year-old judge, I showed that he was revoking me and stated that he was for a status came to the court again. Apparently he did. But then on 6/7/19 of last year, there was a capious issue and a new one on 7/31/19.
Okay.
So I don't know how that links that up because you did dispose of it. You did get report to jail.
I think there's just one there.
Okay.
That's actually handled. Okay. Let's see. Are you going to call him?
I will, Your Honor.
I've already sworn you in. This is Mr. Comer is being called for the limited purpose of the bond. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Mr. Comer, please state your full name. I'm going to have to go back there.
Mr. Hill's got to leave.
Sorry, Judge.
You just go back in the jury room.
Sorry.
Okay.
Can everyone hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. Comer, please state your full name.
Michael Jason Comer.
Okay. And how long have you been incarcerated?
I've been arrested. I was arrested November 8, 2019.
Comer,
Have you been in custody?
Hold on, Mr. Hill. Mr. Comer, you need to scoot up closer.
Oh, sorry. Is this better?
Yes.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
Have you been in custody continuously since that date?
Yes, sir.
And currently you have no bond?
No.
Okay. Is there an amount of bond that you would be able to make?
It'd be very little.
When you say very little, what do you mean?
It'd be 500 or less, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's
when not incarcerated, where do you reside?
323 Prophet Lane, Kingsport, Tennessee, 37663.
Who else lives there?
My father, my stepmother, my brother, my sister, and her girlfriend.
Okay. How long have you resided there?
5 years.
Do you have any connections outside of the area, the Tri-Cities area, Kingsport?
What do you mean? As far as
family?
Yeah, I have uncles and aunts and cousins who all live in the Knoxville area.
Okay. Have you ever resided with them?
No.
Okay. You mentioned the people that live in the house that you reside in. Do they work?
No, my stepfather is 100% disabled for the military.
Okay. Is there anyone else in that household that works?
No.
Okay. Do you have employment?
Yes, I do.
What is your employment?
I drive for a company called Bright Transportation Logistics out of Chicago, Illinois.
How long have you been employed by them?
July 29th, 2019.
Before then, did you have employment?
Yes, I worked for the company called RTS, and I worked for them for 3 years as an owner-operator.
Okay, a truck driver?
Yes.
Okay. The job with, you said it was Bright Logistics.
Yes.
Would you have that job if you were released today? You could go back to work?
Yes, I have a letter from the company that was sent to me in January that stated that that my position is still there and they want me back really bad.
Is there an expiration date on when you would have to come back?
I have to be back before my medical card expires. And once my medical card expires, I'll become ineligible to do the FMSCR rules and CSA and DOT. So,
can you explain what you mean by the medical card?
Yeah, medical card, it's required by federal law that all truck drivers or anybody that has a CDL is required to have a medical physical done to make sure that they're capable physically of driving a commercial vehicle because of the danger that resides with my job. I have my current medical card is good through June of 2021 or 2021. Yeah, next year is when my medical card expires. They're good for every 2 years. And CSA is what the federal government dictates what we have to follow by now. So,
okay. What are your prior convictions?
I haven't been in trouble since 2004 and 2005. Was in the state of Texas. I had my daughter for 2 days longer than what I was supposed to have had her. So it was a custody issue I had. And before that, I had a domestic violence, and that was in 2002. And it was like drunken public kind of things that I had back then. But since then, I've rejoined the military. I had a successful career in the military. I had a medical discharge with the Arnold on my 214s, and I've been driving a truck ever since. I haven't even gotten a parking ticket, and I can't remember how many years. With the exception of this particular situation I'm under right now, that's the last particular issue I've had legal. I haven't had any issues.
Have you had any violent convictions, assault, things of that nature?
Outside of the domestic violence, that charge I had back in 2002, that's the only thing I've had.
Okay, so you're currently, your last conviction was for the 3 years probation, I think, on a false report?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anything else you wish for the court to consider in determining whether you'll have a bond, what that bond might be?
Well, yeah, a couple of things. One, obviously, everybody's perfectly aware we had this whole coronavirus thing, and I do a job that is very important for the economic recovery for our country. I'm in a position to where I can help. It's not I'm worried about me getting sick, because I want to do something to help. That's me. That's one. Two, my father is in desperate need of my income. He had to use my savings that I had been saving up through my job because he is medically discharged from the military and he cannot work. He uses my income that I've saved up to be able to pay for his bills. He's very dependent on me. So that's the two things. The third thing is that I want to prove my story. I don't have a reason to run. I don't have a reason not to show up. You look at the rule docket, I haven't had any failure to appear. When I was on bond, I showed up here when I was supposed to on a $10,000 bond driving my truck. You look on the rule docket, there wasn't a bond revocation, nothing for me at all, period. So I showed up when I was supposed to. I'm very apologetic that I broke down June 7th. There was nothing I could have done about that. But I did send a video of me broke down on the side of the road, and I called my former counsel, Sam White. I was in constant communication with him, which he was in constant communication with this court. I tried to turn myself in. They didn't have the paperwork for me. So I went to do my job. This is what had happened. There's no other explanation for anything. That's it. I want to be able to prove my case. Outside of this, the only thing that I ask is, if I'm given the privilege of having this, is that I have enough time to be able to help my counsel gather the evidence to be able to prove my case. There are some things that my counsel is not able to get, like the video and the text messages through AT&T. Because I've been in here so long, my contract is now canceled. It's on my AT&T cloud. It will require me to go to the AT&T store with my driver's license to pull that information so the court has it. Because again, I want to be able to prove my story. I have no reason to say what I'm saying without all this other stuff I have in my hands. I have quite a bit of it, but I want to be able to prove my story. So that way there is no doubt whatsoever that what I'm saying is fact, period.
That would be all my questions. You have to answer any questions the general might have, okay?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Comer, you pled guilty to false report and disorderly conduct on April 5th of 2018, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that date, the court sentenced you to a 3-year sentence with a split confinement of a year to serve in the Sullivan County Jail.
Yes, ma'am.
And as of today's date, you have not completed service of that 1 year, correct?
With my good time credit that I'm eligible to receive, I will have approximately a year as calculated by the Sheriff's Department. I spoke to Captain Dillard and I've spoken to Sergeant Watson. Both of them have already confirmed that I have accumulated that amount of time. So yes, ma'am, I have.
Okay, well, let's talk about the sentence. You were initially sentenced on April the 5th in order to serve that sentence, and the court gave you a report date to come back to the jail.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then subsequent to that, there was a violation of probation that was filed alleging that you had not reported to serve your jail sentence and that you had not reported to probation for your intake, correct?
I didn't have a probation officer assigned to me at that particular time.
No. My question is, there was a violation filed alleging you failed to report to intake and you failed to do your jail time, right?
I don't remember what it said on that first probation paperwork. I don't have it from me. I'm sorry.
Okay. It says, and it was filed July the 10th of 2018, I will observe any special conditions imposed by the court, serve 1 year as calculated by the sheriff, report 4/19/18 at 8 a.m. And on 4/9/18, the offender failed to report to the Sullivan County Jail in order to serve 1 year as calculated by the sheriff as instructed by the court. Additionally, the offender has failed to report to probation since 4/5/18. So that was filed.
Okay.
And you were not served with that until March 18th of 2019. That's when you were arrested.
It was March 8th, 2019, I was arrested.
So in March of 2019, after the violation was filed in July of 2018, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were represented by an attorney and appeared in court. And you pled not guilty to the violation.
That's correct, yes, ma'am.
But you recall that the court found you guilty of the violation, right?
I guess, yes, ma'am.
Well, I mean, that's what happened. You know, that's what happened.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. and you were revoked and reinstated,
Yes.
put back on probation.
Yes.
The court gave you 60 days credit for serving on the violation.
Yes, ma'am.
And then based on your request, because you said you had to work and do some things with your medical licensing with your trucking, your CDLs, the court allowed you to be released from jail, and you were supposed to come back to court on May the 24th of 2019.
Yes, ma'am, which I did.
Correct. And you didn't have your medical licensing and all that stuff done. And so on May 24th of 2019, Judge Goodwin ordered you to reappear on June the 7th of 2019.
That's correct.
And without getting into any of the facts or explanation, you didn't show up on that date.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Because
Okay.
I rode down the side of the road, and that's
Right.
why.
Now, I'm not asking you to explain, Mr. Comer. I'm not asking you to explain, because I don't think your attorney is going to want you to get into that. But you would agree with me that a subsequent violation was filed, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And you weren't brought back into custody. I believe you testified that you were arrested on November the 8th of 2019.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that was about 5 months later.
Yep, that's correct. Yes, ma'am.
And you've also been charged with another failure to appear as a result of that June 7th non-appearance.
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Judge, I think that's all the questions I have.
I'd like to.
Mr. Hill, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
I think Mr. Comer was wanting to say something.
Yeah, as I was going to say this, since Ms. Nelson mentioned it, in my hand, this piece of paper right here, and this one right here, is when I stood out here in this parking lot, June 7th, after I was told to be here after my car was fixed. I tried to do what I was instructed to through Mr. White, and I was told no. Here's the warrant that was signed June 7th. They didn't receive it until the end of the month. And I asked the people here at this jail, can I please turn myself in to Judge Goodwin since there's nothing there? I was told legally I couldn't do that. They keep trying. So my hands were tied with that. So, I mean, I can't fake this stuff. I just want a fair shot to be able to get the evidence I need to be able to help my counsel. And I can't do that being here. I've served the year that I was required of me through these walls. I've done that. I have my job and my family needs me. So I'm hoping that I'll be given the privilege and to be able to have what he's trying to help me get.
And of course, Judge, may I ask in response?
Yes.
You're aware that the new violation that is filed, that's pending, alleges that you once again failed to report to probation.
I reported as a probation and I did not miss a single appointment, nor did I fill a single drug test. Every appointment that was scheduled for me to do, I reported early.
So just so I'm clear, it's your testimony under oath that after June the 7th of 2019, you reported as instructed to your probation officer.
June 10th, I showed up at the probation office at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and my probation officer was not available to speak to. That is correct, yes, ma'am.
And so, again, it's your testimony that you reported after June the 9th as scheduled and as required.
At June 10th, yes, ma'am, I showed up at the probation office and my probation officer was not available.
And that was the extent of your reporting?
They told me that she would get in contact with me to set an appointment, and it never happened.
Okay. That's all, Judge.
Mr. Hill, anything else with Mr. Comer?
No, Your Honor.
Any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, General?
No, Your Honor.
Argument, Mr. Hill.
Briefly, Your Honor, this has been a little complicated, it seems, for Mr. Comer getting to court, getting to probation. But as he says, he's got a good excuse for why he didn't appear on July, or I think it was June the 7th of last year. He relays that he has the phone records to prove that he had called. I think the proof would show, as far as that failure to appear, that was not a willful act on his part on that date. So I would think that he has a good explanation for that, Your Honor. As far as the violation, I know the court doesn't have to put a bond down for a violation, but given that he really doesn't have that much of a history, that this is not, he's not on probation for a violent offense, that he has gainful employment, ties to the community, strong ties. He supports the family that he lives with. He's lived here for 5 years. We would ask that the court set a bond. He said he can't afford much. We would ask for something in the nature of a pretrial release, maybe ankle monitoring, something of that nature, so that he can be out, because who knows when we can actually see this through, given the COVID-19 complications that the courts and everyone else has been having recently.
Argument, General.
Judge, this is complicated merely because the defendant has failed to do the things that has been asked of him by this court. The court granted him probation in 2018. He was ordered to serve a sentence that may or may not be served even as of today. The allegation is that on the first violation, he failed to report to intake. The court had a hearing and found him guilty of that violation, gave him the courtesy of releasing him so that he could get his affairs in order to report. Then a subsequent violation has been filed, as well as a failure to appear, which by all accounts is undisputed. The defendant did not appear on June the 7th. And by all accounts, undisputed, the defendant was not arrested until November of 2019. It's by his absence and his failure to do the things that are asked of him. And I know this is just a bond hearing, but for purposes of bond, I would ask the court to consider the nature and the previous history regarding supervision and the defendant's failure to comply with what the court's asked him to do. And I think if the court grants him a bond, we're going to be back in the exact same boat with the excuses that Mr. Comer wants to give the court each and every time about his work, and that nobody will see him or nobody will take him at the jail. I'm sure the court recalls the hearing that we had back about a year ago, and it was the exact same thing. They didn't have a minimus. Nobody would take me. My officer wasn't available. And here we are again, and we've managed to extend this 3-year sentence going on 2 years, and he's yet to start his probation. So based upon that, I'd ask that the court not grant a bond at this time.
All right. In Tennessee, a defendant is not entitled to bond on a post-conviction matter, such as a probation violation. The biggest problem, Mr. Hill, that the court has is what the general pointed out, that this warrant was issued July 31st. He wasn't arrested until November 14th. And when I looked at the first warrant, it was the same situation, except it was longer. During the first violation, the warrant was issued July 10, 2018, and he wasn't arrested until March 18 of 19. Court's going to continue to hold Mr. Coomer without bond based on this violation. I can set a bond hearing just as quickly as you want it, and as quickly as you all can get ready for it. Mr. Coomer is concerned that he would have to appear in person at AT&T. Mr. Hill, if you need the subpoena power of this court, I think that would probably work as well or faster than Mr. Coomer being there. So you just have to let me know if you need a judicial subpoena for any records, and I'll issue that. How quickly can you all be ready for a violation hearing?
Judge, we have a.
Can we do a violation hearing now? I mean, because if the recorded phone calls aren't good enough for Ms. Nelson in this court and the evidence I have, let's just do it now, because I've sat here and watched people get released who have 3 or 4 violations and 4 or 5 failure to appears. I've got all their names down. They've been released on their pre-trial release. I've done everything that was asked of me. There's recorded calls here.
Apparently, Mr. Coomer, based on the 2 violations that I have in front of me, you haven't done everything that's been asked of you, or else you wouldn't be sitting there. Now you've got a lawyer. Mr. Hill, how long do you need to get ready for a hearing?
Judge,
We're set for June the 11th, Your Honor.
Yeah.
We can do it.
June the 11th at 9 o'clock. If you need subpoena power of the court, I'm glad to give it to you. That's all, Mr. Coomer.
Of course it is.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Violate my First Amendment rights. Oh, they're gonna give everybody else their mom pre-trial release.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Hill?
No, thank you, Your Honor. Have a good weekend.
You too. Mr. Kennedy,
Yes, sir.
what have you got?
I have a misdemeanor for a bond hearing, and I have Michael Rhodes for a plea.
Minor 66576 66607.
We're going to do Misty first.
I think so.
Okay.
Are you going to call her?
I am. She is the only witness I have.
Ms. Minor, if you'll raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Kennedy, are you going to call her for the limited purpose of the bond hearing?
I am indeed, Your Honor.
All right. Miss Minor is here on a violation of probation warrant, alleging it looks like new charges.
And in fact, Your Honor, I believe she has more than one new charge.
There's 2 violation warrants, both alleging new charges. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
State your name for the record. Did you swear her in? I didn't see.
I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. State your name for the record.
Misty Minor.
Ms. Minor, you're the defendant in this case. Is that correct?
Correct.
And you have charges pending right now in General Sessions case. Is that court? Is that correct?
Correct.
Do you know when you go back to court on those cases?
I'm thinking they said May the 28th, but I can't be 100% accurate about that at the moment, where everything's changing with this pandemic that's going on.
Okay. Where, if you were to make a bond, the judge would grant you a bond and you were to make a bond, where would you reside?
And the address would be 929 Fairview Avenue, Kingsport, Tennessee.
Who lives there?
My sister and my children.
Okay. Do you have any other family that lives in Sullivan County?
Yes.
Who would that be?
My mother, her name is Teresa House. And also my adopted mother, her name is Mary Guy, but she's currently being housed in Holston Valley Hospital.
Do you have any family members or close ties that are outside the state of Tennessee?
No, sir.
any other people in Tennessee that are outside of Sullivan County?
No, sir.
If you were given a bond and get out, would you have a job available to you?
I don't have one to immediately go out to, but I have spoke with a person who actually does ministry at the jail. Of course, she hasn't got to come in a while, but her son is actually the manager at the Goodwill warehouse on 11W. And he said for me to come in and talk to him about starting work whenever I got out.
Okay. Now, the cases that you have in Sessions Court, we're not going to talk about them, but have you bonded out on those?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you have a bond out of there.
I've already actually posted bond of those. I lost my husband on Valentine's Day of this year, and I posted those bonds trying to get a furlough or something to go, do his funeral arrangements and things. So I've already posted bond on those charges. The only thing I've been held here on is the violations.
Okay, and you don't have any holds out of any other county?
No, sir. Okay. I've never been charged out of any other county.
Have you ever been charged with failure to appear?
I think a misdemeanor failure to appear out of Kingsport Court, and then I'd actually been charged with a failure to appear out of criminal court, but it was brought to Mr. Goodwin's attention by my lawyer at the time, whose name was Chris Cameron, that I was actually in court that day. It was a mistake, and I was given an OR bond on that charge.
Okay. Your Honor, that's all I have right now.
Suzanne?
Ms. Minor?
Yes, sir.
Did you have a failure to appear in 2013 out of Kingsport?
I think so.
Okay. What about a false report charge out of 2013?
Yes, sir. I've done probation out of Kingsport on that and completed that probation.
Okay. And then you received 3 years TDOC for prescription fraud?
Yes, sir.
And that was in 2015?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I was sentenced on that in 2018.
All right. And how many violations did you have on that charge?
This is the first violations that I have.
First one on that charge?
Yes, sir.
What about violations out of Sessions Court?
I'm not exactly sure.
You're not sure how many?
No, I think it was maybe 2, 3 at the most, maybe.
Okay. And do you have a new failure to appear out of Sessions Court? A current one?
I've checked my warrants that I've been served with, and it doesn't say anything about a failure to appear on those.
Okay. I believe those are all the questions I have. Thank you.
Your Honor, if I could ask one more question.
Go ahead.
What kind of bond would you be able to make?
Anywhere between 10 to 15,000.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I have.
So if I could also make it known, but when I first became incarcerated in December, I had a residence in Scott County, and so I could get my probation and everything back on track, because we were trying to do a interstate compact when all of this happened to get it transferred to Virginia, so we didn't have to go through all of that. The residence that I just gave the address to, that is a residence that I have obtained since being arrested. I no longer have a residence in Scott County. I've also paid $300 toward my probation fines and all of that since I've been in here. When I got served the warrant for the new charges out of Kingsport, just so I was still in compliance with my probation officer, I did contact her and also make her aware of the charges. So it's not something she had to find out about. I did contact her and make her aware of those charges.
Thank you. Your Honor, that's all we have.
Generally proof.
No, Your Honor.
Argument, Mr. Kennedy.
Your Honor, she has been incarcerated. She has other charges, which, as complicates this case, but she is a resident of Sullivan County. She has ties to Sullivan County and that her children are there. Recently lost her husband, and she has been in continuous custody for a while and she is not asking that you just let her out on pretrial or anything like that. She's asking that you give her a secured bond between 10 and 15,000, which she already has 2 other bonds that are out of Sessions Court. So I believe her appearance will be secure, and we're just asking that you give her a bond and let her attempt to bond out.
General?
Judge, she has a history of perjury, failure to appear, prescription fraud, and several other smaller crimes. She's currently being charged with identity theft and theft. We think she should be held without bond until she has a hearing.
What's the status of her underlying case?
They're still in Sessions Court, Your Honor.
And she goes back in May?
May 28th.
Anything else, Mr. Kennedy?
No.
Anything else, General?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we've got 2 pending violation warrants. In a violation case, she's not entitled to a bond like she would be on an untried case. She does have a history, at least 1 prior conviction for failure to appear, or or a false report. The court is going to deny the motion to set a bond. She'll remain in custody without bond on these violations. Mr. Kennedy, do you want me to set it after May the 28th?
That's fine, Your Honor. If you want to set it to the very next week, it's fine.
June 4th.
Thank you. I'll check up on what's going on down there to see whether they're going to be bound over or whether she's going to work them out. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Minor.
Thank you.
Who's next?
I have Michael Rhodes, Your Honor. He has he has 3 cases. One of the cases is by information, and he is going to be serving a 3-year 100% TDOC case. This is Mr. Watson's. There he is.
Yep. Michael D. Rhodes, 70728-71790 and 71791.
Does Mr. Rhodes have a copy of the plea stuff?
He doesn't.
He does or does not?
Does not.
Hey, Mr. Kennedy, is there a way I could ask you something, just me and you, real quick? Is there a way that can happen with the
Judge? I can run a copy down if it's quicker for the court.
I've got it right here.
Okay.
You hear me?
I hear you. I don't know how we could facilitate that.
I mean, I can ask you in front of them. It's nothing. It doesn't incriminate me. I just didn't know if you would prefer me not to.
Well, if you ask a question I don't like it, I'll tell you. We'll talk.
I understand. I'm worried about a possible, I know I've talked to you about this before, a possible federal indictment. And is there any way we could, if I agree to this charge with this gun, it means I'm accepting that it was mine. And
That is correct.
I don't want in the future. I mean, it's been 2 years and they haven't picked me up. I'm just worried about it. Is there anything we can put in the plea where
No, absolutely not. The judge doesn't have any authority for anything that the feds do. Zero. The only other way to deal with that is for you to plead not guilty, us go to trial on it.
But do you think that we would know by now? Like we would have heard something?
I can't tell you what the feds will do, honestly.
You want to let him go back to holding, get with Officer Harless, because there's another computer back there, and have you call in on the other computer and have a private conversation. I would much prefer that than y'all talking here in open court.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be causing a problem. I'm just.
You're not causing a problem at all.
Not a problem.
Go ahead and take it.
Thank you, Mr. Kennedy.
Have Carlos get that other machine gun.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there you are, Sean.
So where do I need to go?
We're going to have Mr. Kennedy call him on the other computer.
Okay.
to talk to him privately.
All right, I can do that.
Okay, so do I need to sign off here or?
Probably, yeah. And then sign, and then get with
I'll
Harlan.
come.
Harlan will tell you where to sign in on the other one. Mr. Mink, are you here?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Do you have cases or are you just here for Queen work?
I have both. If we could call Timothy Morrison.
Timothy Morrison, 68144-72-931.
Timothy Morrison.
Mary Morrison.
And Judge, I've represented Mr. Morrison in the past, and we get along fairly well. But it was brought to my attention by our office that on this new case, we have represented the alleged victim, and will be asking to be removed from the case.
Okay. Did you file a motion?
I believe we did. I remember signing one. Hopefully my office took it up there to file.
I don't see one in the file, but I'm going to let you go forward on an oral motion to withdraw based on an actual conflict.
And I've spoken to Mr. Morrison about it, about why we have a conflict, and he understands.
Court finds that you do have an actual conflict. I'm going to appoint Kenneth Hill. In both cases. Mr. Mink, if you'll do an order relieving the public defender's office, we'll set this for when was Mr. Hill coming back on that bond? Or whatever he was doing. I'm going to set this for May 22nd, just to get Mr. Hill in the case. This is Timothy Morrison. So May 22nd at 9 o'clock, we'll do that by video.
Yes, sir.
And we'll notify Mr. Hill, Mr. Morrison. My office will notify him.
Okay, will you all send me a paper to who, so I know how to get a hold of him?
I don't have his contact information. Yeah, I'll have somebody bring you something over.
Will you do it, please? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Thank you, Wesley.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison, I got the audio of the preliminary hearing. I'll get that to Mr. Hill, okay?
Thank you. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Who else do you have, Mr. Mink?
Claude Fegans.
(72839-72840) Claude Fegans. 70334. We have a new. Mr. Mink, we have a new indictment in 72839. We're going to take him a copy of his. We're going to take him his copy, and then your copy will be placed here in the court file. You can come and get it. Does he waive a reading or plea of not guilty at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
We just need to get an announcement date for all cases.
Yes, and I believe there should be a motion to withdraw in this file. I don't know about today.
Could I speak with my attorney?
Hold on, Mr. Fegans.
He just found Scout. He's not in contact with us.
Hold on, Mr. Fegans. There is a motion to withdraw filed by the Public Defender's Office on April 16, 2020. That's in the court file.
Your Honor, I got a question here. I received a letter yesterday from your office, and it said that y'all turned me down on a motion for pretrial release because I had an attorney. Well, my attorney filed a motion to withdraw before you signed this paper on my pretrial release, turning me down.
So I tell the lawyer he's out, he's in. So just because he filed a motion doesn't mean he's been relieved.
And Judge, on the last court date, we had a full bond hearing where we asked for pretrial release and or OR bond.
Right. I remembered we had a bond
Yes, sir.
Mr. Fegans, I'm going to, well, first of all, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Mink, go ahead and state the rationale for your reasons you want to be relieved.
Judge, it's my personal feeling that the attorney-client relationship is irretrievably broken. I don't think Mr. Fegans and I just haven't seen eye to eye on things procedurally, and I just, you know, I think Mr. Fegans is a good person, and we just don't seem to gee and haw, and I just don't think going forward we're a good fit together. That'd be all.
Mr. Fegans, do you believe that the attorney-client relationship is broken between you and Mr. Mink?
I've definitely had a hard time getting in contact with Mr. Mink. That's for sure. I've called, I've wrote letters to receive none back. And I also don't completely understand. He spoke for me there a while ago. I wanted to go ahead and plead guilty and take care of all this stuff today. I don't understand this whole situation, Your Honor.
Well, Mr. Mink tells me that you all don't see eye to eye.
He ain't spoke to me. I've tried getting in contact. I've called his office multiple times. I spoke with his secretary multiple times. I had at least 8 letters. And see, I'll come today in full agreement. So he's going to take care of this and plead out. I'm ready to take a plea on this if possible.
I'm going to relieve the Public Defender's Office. I'm going to appoint Nick Davenport to represent you, and I'm going to set the case for next Friday, May 15th. I'm going to notify Mr. Davenport that he's in the case and have him get in touch with you between now and then.
Judge, he was arraigned on one case. There's also another new case. There's a violation. There's the one case that's been indicted, and then there's another case that has not yet been indicted. And then he had 1 or 2 cases, I believe, in General Sessions Court in addition to these new cases. It's my understanding that those cases, there was either a preliminary hearing or a motion, and as a result of either the hearing or the motion, those cases were dismissed. Those are being sent up to me for review for possible indictment by the grand jury, but I have not received everything on those. So I just wanted to make the court aware of what all Mr. Fegans has in terms of cases and possible charges. And certainly it's fine to set it next Friday if that's what the court wants to do. I just wanted to let you know.
I do, because I want to make sure that Mr. Davenport talks to Mr. Fegans and Mr. Davenport knows he's in the case.
Okay, and I'll be happy to talk to Mr. Davenport once he's notified by your office.
All right, we'll try to do that today.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Fegans has 3 holds on him out of other jurisdictions.
Yes, sir.
I've been in here 6 months, Your Honor, on the first violation, and I understand what had going on is wrong, but I'm ready to go ahead and take care of this. I've turned my life around. I'm ready to.
Then you need to have that conversation with Mr. Davenport, not me. Let him know what your wishes are, and then he can talk to the prosecutor and try to get something worked out and move ahead accordingly.
What if I just represent myself? How would that work? I just go ahead and plead guilty. I want to take care of this and get it behind me.
Well, one of the cases hasn't been indicted. Other cases that were in Sessions Court are being evaluated by the district attorney. Let me talk. Are being evaluated by the district attorney. Now, if you want to represent yourself, there's a whole process we have to go through, and I'm glad to do that if that's what you want to do. but it's not going to result in you just being able to plead guilty today. So
Friday. Would I be able to plead guilty Friday?
okay, let me back up because I said it once and I'm gonna say it again. Hopefully you'll understand it. One of the cases you haven't even been indicted on.
They dismissed them charges, Your Honor.
No, there's a case that's already been bound over that if you had been listening to General Nelson, she said that one case had gone to the grand jury and one case had not yet. So there's no indictment.
Right here says there's an indictment on both of them. They just brought me these papers out of your courtroom, Your Honor.
Yeah, and if you'll look at the top of that paper, there's one case number on it, right?
Yes, sir. The other one's a misdemeanor. I understand. I apologize, Your Honor.
There's nothing to apologize for. I'm just making sure you understand. Case 72839 has been indicted, and case 72840 has not.
Can we make a blind plea and take care of that today?
That's not the way it works in criminal court, Mr. Fegans. You're not in sessions court anymore. Mr. Davenport is in the case. I set the case until next Friday, the 15th. For Mr. Davenport, he'll talk to you between now and then. And then he can talk to the DA. We're done today. Thank you.
His contact information.
I will have that sent over to you.
Mr. Fegans, come on.
Thank you.
Who's the other one?
Get the other one out.
Comer.
And Judge, for the record, Mr. Fegans had several conversations and had video chat set up with him. Probably not as much contact as he would have wanted, but I disagree with him in that fashion.
Who do you have? Who else do you have?
That's all I have on the docket, Your Honor, but I have to do the appointments.
All right, let me go back to Mr. Kennedy's case.
Your Honor, can we call him back in and set him to next week? He has a legitimate concern that I need to look. I want to talk to the federal defender and give him, he wants to listen to me after I've talked to them and give him some information. There's nothing on the radar screen right now as to federal things, but I would like to talk to Nikki and find out what she says is the thing. And I'm sorry about that.
Michael Rhodes.
Rhodes.
He's running for executive director. Oh, for down here?
Mr. Rhodes, after you've talked with Mr. Kennedy, he's come back and said that he would like to set your case off till next week so that he can check into that question that you had for him. Is that what you would like to do? All right. We'll set your case for May the 15th at 9 o'clock.
Thank you, Your Honor.
A week from today. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rhodes.
Your Honor, are you going to be doing the appointment on Schaefer today?
Yes.
That was my last case, but if you appoint us to the Schaefer case, I think it's going to be mine.
You want me to go ahead and do it while you're here?
If you wouldn't mind.
We'll take up William Schaefer, 72968.
Schaefer.
Mr. Kennedy, do you already have cases on him?
And Judge, I believe he just bound over a domestic assault case recently out of Bristol General Sessions Court. I don't know if that's paperwork's made its way up or not.
Apparently it has not. I don't see anything about it.
Go up there, make sure you talk loud enough for them to hear you.
Is it up here?
Case number 72997.
Can you go get it? Mr. Kennedy, it's going to take me just a minute. There is another case up here, 72997.
Okay.
We're going to get that and add it to the form.
Thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and start with information. Raise your right hand, Mr. Schaefer. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Schaefer, what are the last 4 digits of your social security number?
3559.
Say that again. Somebody was coughing.
3559.
And what's your address?
It was 488 Meadowview Road, lot 10 and a half.
And what city?
Bristol, Tennessee.
And were you working before you were brought into court?
No, Your Honor.
Did you receive any government assistance, disability, SSI, anything like that?
No, Your Honor.
And how long have you been in custody?
Since April 16th.
Do you have any minor children?
No, Your Honor.
Do you have any cash? Do you own a checking or savings account, any CDs or any money in the bank?
I have a bank account, but I'm not sure how much is in it, or the account or routing number.
How much do you think is in it?
About 500.
Do you own any single item of property, the value of which is $500 or more?
No.
I am going to appoint the public defender. Assess $50 administrative fee in each case to be paid 14 days after release. Now, Mr. Kennedy, in case 72968, there's a new presentment charging Mr. Schaefer with first-degree murder, aggravated child abuse, 2 counts. Does he waive a reading and plea of not guilty at this time?
He does.
And in 72997, he's been bound over for domestic assault. Looks like the alleged victim there was Gabby Potter. There's not been an indictment. $50. So his total bond is $1,050,000. Now, we'll set this case for July the 10th to get discovery going, see where we are. July 10th at 9 o'clock.
Okay. Mr. Schaefer?
Yes, sir.
My name is Andy Kennedy, and there, if you look on the screen, you'll also see Wesley Mink, the one who just waved. We are the lawyers that will be taking care of your case. We will be getting in touch with you very shortly after we get a little bit of information.
All righty.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. That's all for today. Is that all you have, Mr. Kennedy?
That is, and I'm going to leave now if that's okay, unless Wes needs me to do something.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
All right. I think all we have left are the appointments. Is that right? I'm sorry. Tabitha Holt, 71137 was reset before court to. Oh, no, we're talking about Tabitha Holt.
Did you need her out?
Not yet. Not yet. You have Tabitha Holt on the docket. in your bucket. Oh, so this is a violation on 10 months. It's a violation of bond supervision. All right, so he's not the lawyer. I don't know why there would be a bond supervision if she was in 10 months. There has to be a violation.
Her very first one was set for 4/15.
I have no idea. This is by Teresa Nelson. Teresa? General Nelson?
Yes, Judge.
You have Tabitha Holt?
She is, yes.
I put her in, looks like I put her in 10 Rocks back in March. Oh, this is from July of 19. That's been dealt with.
This was on 6, her family set for status on Friday.
Do you have your file?
I don't. I'm sorry. I can pull up.
I think she's just here for status for us to tell her to find. Well, I don't have Mackenzie here.
Let me double check. The last thing.
The last thing would have been March 20th. I put her in 10 Rocks.
March 6th. She got a 10-year
March
sentence.
6th.
And she was
and I put her in 10.
complete. Yes, that's what I show as well, Judge.
So her status date was April 15 to see if she had gotten into Willow yet, but we didn't have court that day, I guess. Or if we did, I moved it to today.
Judge, if you'll give me a second, I may have that file still out. No, Judge, I think it's been put away.
Okay,
But I'm not aware of anything else.
Okay, I've got it here. We need Tabitha Holt. Thank you.
You're welcome.
71137.
Let me see right there. Make sure you speak up.
Ms. Holt,
Yes.
I wanted to bring you into court and let you know that we haven't forgotten about you. Mackenzie followed up with Willow Ridge. They won't give her an exact date, but they're saying that you'll have a bed one day, sometime the week of May 23rd, so just in a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And once that happens, I will do a MIT to go ahead and get you out of the jail, okay?
Okay.
All right. And we'll have your next status day as I'm gonna go ahead and just have it pop up on June the 3rd. But if you're still at Willow, you don't have to come, okay? Okay, thank you, ma'am. 10 Rocks Review.
That's it.
It wasn't for appointment. I don't have a form for Chatan Keeling.
She's not even on my jail list.
She's marked on my docket as being in jail.
Who is it?
Hold on, we're looking real quick.
She's on here, but I didn't.
Is she?
Tell her she'll first get her down.
Hey, we need to get Chatan Keeling, Keeling. She's in work release. We need to get her down.
Unit 2.
Okay.
Temple.
And next we have Kenneth Boggs. And while he's getting Mr. Boggs, Jonathan Adams, 72999, was reset before court to June 23rd at 9 o'clock. Are you Mr. Boggs?
Yes, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear a firm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Boggs, what are the last 4 of your social security number?
1222.
And what's your address?
I just now got a new address. My family just moved, but I was at 642 Northcott. That's my house.
642 what?
Northcott.
In what city?
Kingsport, Tennessee.
Unit 2.
And my next question is, if that's where you were, you said you have a new address. What's that?
I was in the process of moving. That's my house. That's my house. That's where I'll be resigning there.
When you get out of jail, that's where you'll live?
Yeah, that's where I'm going to be living.
And what's your telephone number?
423-292-0320.
And were you working before you were brought into custody?
Yes, sir.
Where?
CNL Services.
And what were you doing?
I was doing a little bit of everything. We do construction and restoration. We paint houses, do lawn care. We do a little bit of everything. It's just whatever service you need.
And how much were you making there? How much were you bringing home?
Well, at that point in time, I was bringing home right around I was roughly bringing home probably about $400 a week.
Do you know if you'll have that job or not when you get out?
I should. I haven't. I've been here 9.5 months, so I mean, I ain't really talked to nobody or nothing. So I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it's most likely, yeah, but.
And what's your birthday?
6789. Pretty easy to remember.
Were you receiving any government assistance, a pension, disability, anything like that?
No, sir.
And how long have you been in jail?
I've been in here for almost 10 months now.
And do you have any minor children?
Yes, I have 2.
And what are their ages?
My son is 15 and my daughter's 13.
Do you have cash, checking, savings account, CDs, anything like that?
No, sir.
Do you own any single item of property in excess of $500?
I don't know. To be honest with you, sir, I don't know what I have out there no more. I've been here.
Do you own a car?
No, sir. I don't drive.
Do you own, you said you have a house. Do you rent or own?
I rent.
I'm going to appoint the public defender, assess $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, he's been bound over for speeding, drug paraphernalia, lane change, manufacturing methamphetamine, possession of Schedule 6 for resale, evading arrest, and some other driving offenses. There has not been an indictment. General? Whose case is for the state?
Sorry, Judge, what's the name? Judge,
Kenneth Boggs.
it's scheduled to go to grand jury on May 20th.
Okay. We'll set this then on May 29th to see if the grand jury has acted on the case and to get him arraigned. Thank you, Mr. Boggs. Mr. Mink will be in touch with you, okay? Or someone from the PD's office.
All right, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I need Hannah Bird. Six 87878.
There you go.
See how much done so far? Yeah.
Oh, it's not down there?
Who you need next?
Hannah Bird.
Bird.
It's okay.
Bird.
Yes.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
What's the last four of your social?
0898
And what's your address?
1561 Fort Henry Drive, apartment 4, Kingsport.
And your phone?
Phone number 423-251-0008.
Were you working before you were brought into custody?
I was working at IHOP, but I've been off for about the last month and a half due to the coronavirus. And the only reason I violated in the first place because
don't talk about that. Okay. Let me get you a lawyer. How much were you making at the IHOP?
I was serving, so approximately $10 per hour.
So how much were you bringing home a week?
Probably 300, 400.
I appreciate it, buddy.
What's your date of birth?
9791.
Were you receiving any government assistance, disability, SSI, food assistance?
No.
And how long have you been in custody?
Sunday will be 2 weeks.
Do you have any minor children?
Yes, but I don't have custody of them.
How many?
2.
What are their ages?
6 and 2.
Are you required to pay child support?
No, not at the moment.
Do you have cash, checking, savings accounts, CDs, or anything else like that?
No.
Do you own any single item of property that's worth more than $500, like a car or a house?
I just got a car right before I come in. It's at 5th Avenue.
Wait. Is that a Chrysler?
Yeah.
How much is it worth?
I'm not sure. It's in bad shape. It's not a great car, so probably not too much. Maybe $1,000.
How much do you owe?
About 500. I paid 500 and.
Do you own any real estate, other kind of real property?
No.
I'll appoint public defender, assess $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. Ms. Bird is before the court on a violation of probation dated December 17, 2019. Mr. Mink, does she waive a reading and plea of not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Looks like she was arrested April 26, 2020. We'll set this case for May 27. Does that give you enough time, Mr. Mink?
Yes, Your Honor.
May 27th at 9 o'clock, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah, Your Honor, I have something set up with the Detective Murray to get a bond today.
I have no idea. If you do, you got to be here on May 27th at 9 o'clock.
Judge,
And if you do get out, then make sure you contact the public defender's office and your probation officer.
Okay, so do I have a bond today?
Right now, you do not.
Judge,
Okay.
that would be news to me.
I've had this set up with him.
Nobody's approached me about it. That's all I can tell you. I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so May 27th.
At 9 o'clock. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon Castle. Mr. Mink, you have a conflict in this case?
Yes, sir. Miss Tiller advised. I think she sent Miss Kathy an email about it.
Yes.
Mr. Castle, raise your right hand. You solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, I need you to speak up just a little bit, okay?
Yes, sir.
There you go. What's the last four digits of your social security number?
9232.
And what's your address?
4572 Bellwood Trail, Kingsport, Tennessee 37664.
And your phone number?
I don't have my cell phone, but you can have my mother's. It's 423-276-5807.
And were you working before you were brought into custody?
Yes, sir.
Where?
Gillum Construction. It's my stepdad's construction business.
And how much were you bringing home?
$800 a week.
But you don't know if you'll have that job when you get out?
I will.
What's your date of birth?
12/17/93.
93?
Sir.
Do you receive any government assistance, disability, SSI, food assistance?
No.
And how long have you been in custody?
I believe 16 days.
Do you have any minor children?
No.
Do you have cash on hand or a checking or savings account or CDs?
No.
Do you own any cars, real property in excess of $500?
No.
We're going to appoint Kenneth Hill.
Kenneth Hill.
Yes, sir.
That'd be my lawyer.
Yes, sir. I'm going to assess $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. We've given you a copy of the indictment. I'm not going to arraign you until Mr. Hill can be present. I'm going to set, didn't we set him a case, Kenneth, a case for next Friday? I'm going to set this case for May 22nd to notify Mr. Hill and to get him present by video so that you can meet him. And Mr. Castle, I will notify, my office will notify Mr. Hill of the appointment, okay?
What's the name of my lawyer again?
Kenneth Hill, Hill.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next is Ronnie Horton, 61764, 67492.
Horton.
61624. Mr. Horton, raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear a firm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right. What's the last four of your social?
9553.
Your address?
218 Lewis Street, Louis.
218?
Yep.
And what city?
Kingsport, Tennessee, 37660.
And your phone?
423-963-5117.
And were you working before you were brought into custody?
I'm self-employed.
And what do you do?
Remodel, home remodel, carpentry work, anything like that.
And how much did you make?
Well, since the coronavirus, it's really put me out of work. I mean, it's not really nothing been going on, but it just depends on how I get paid by the job.
And what's your date of birth?
August 10th, 1989.
Did you receive any government assistance, disability, SSI, anything like that?
No, sir.
And how long have you been in custody?
2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks.
Do you have any minor children?
Yes, I just had a little boy, 6 months old.
You just have one minor child?
And my stepdaughter, she's 4.
Do you have cash on hand, checking, savings account with money in it?
No, sir, not right now.
Do you own any single item of property, such as a car, a boat, a house worth over $500?
No, sir.
I'm going to appoint the public defender, assess a $50 administrative fee in one case to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, Mr. Horton is before the court on looks like 2 violation warrants, one dated April 17, 2020, and one dated April 27, 2020. Does he waive a reading and plea of not guilty at this time to both?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Hold on. Is May 27 too soon?
I don't think so, Judge. I think we can give it a try.
All right, May 27th at 9 o'clock. Mr. Horton, you were going to say something?
Yes, sir. I just wanted to kind of explain my side of the story.
Well, let's let you explain that to Mr. Mink or the lawyer when they come and talk to you.
Well, it's kind of important. I mean, it's nothing incriminating that's going to hurt me. It's just that the whole reason the vandalism charge even come about is because me and my girlfriend got into it. She wouldn't let me see my son that was just born. So I called DCS, and when I called DCS on her, she charged me with she's actually on prescription for Xanaxes and stuff, and she made a false police report over the vandalism. She's in rehab right now getting straightened out. and she's gonna come and withdraw. Even my probation officer knows about this. She's gonna withdraw that charge.
Well, that's not up to her.
DCS even showed
How
up.
it works.
DCS,
Mr.
Are those cases still in Sessions Court?
yes, and I've got Brad Sproles hired for the Sessions Court case.
And when do you go back to Sessions Court?
He just moved it. He moved my court date. It was supposed to be June 9th, but my fiance is in 30-day rehab at Magnolia Ridge. As soon as she gets out, she's going to come and withdraw her thing. I'm trying to furlough and go to rehab myself because she promised if she did, I would. And DCS even come to our house April 4th and drug tested us. I passed for all my drug tests. She failed. So that's why she's going to do it.
Like I said, this is a conversation you don't need to be having in open court. This is a conversation you need to have with your lawyer so that your lawyer can talk to the prosecutor. And if it can be worked out, it can be worked out. If not, we'll have a hearing.
Is there any
So
way
we're
I
not
can,
going to have a hearing today.
is there any way I can get a bond because my son's out there and her mother's in rehab?
Not without having a motion filed before the court and giving the state an opportunity to review it.
Okay.
So you need to talk to your lawyer when they come and talk to you. And they'll come and talk to you pretty quick.
Okay, so my court date is May 27th?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. House right, Santana House right, 70259, 70574, 71268, 72258. Miss Housewright, raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
You need to scoot up to the computer and speak up for me because we can't hear you.
Yes, sir.
There we go. Miss Housewright, what's the last 4 digits of your social?
3510,
And what's your address?
2830 Kane Street, CAIN,
And what city?
Kingsport.
And what's your phone number?
423-384-7937.
And were you working before you were brought into custody?
No.
And do you receive any government assistance?
No.
And how long have you been in jail?
A little over a week and a half.
Do you have any minor children?
Yes.
How many?
2.
Their ages?
4 years old and 3 years old.
Do you have custody?
No.
And do you have to pay child support?
No.
Do you have any cash, checking account, savings account, CDs, anything like that?
No.
Say again, I can't hear you.
No, sorry.
What's going on back there in holding? What's all the noise?
There's no noise back here. I don't know where that's coming from, Judge. I hear it too.
Okay.
Emily Clegg, where would she be?
Miss Housewright, do you own any single item of property worth over $500, such as a car, a boat, a house?
No, sir.
We'll appoint the public defender, assess $50 administrative fee in 2 cases, total of 100, to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, Ms. Housewright's before the court on a violation of probation. It looks like that was filed January 23rd, 2020, alleges a new charge out of Hawkins County. And she was arrested on April 27th. Did she waive reading and plead not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is there just one warrant? And it looks like a misdemeanor case with a $25,000 bond. Then there's also a separate warrant in 72258. Alleges the same thing with a $50,000 bond. Does she waive a reading and plea of not guilty to that one as well?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. And I had put a note on the on each of these warrants that she could be considered for pretrial release, but that's up to the jail.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Total. May 27.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Shatan Keeling, 67090.
Are you okay? Okay. Right, let's see. Judge, make sure you speak well enough for them to hear you.
Ms. Keeling, scoot up there to the computer so we can hear you and raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, ma'am?
Yes, I do.
You're going to have to speak up.
I do.
Okay, thank you. What's the last four of your social?
6422,
Your address?
1281 Ryder Church Road.
1281.
Ryder, R-Y-D-E-R.
All right, I'll see you in a bit.
Bluff City, Tennessee, 3761.
Make sure I got the number right. 1281. Okay.
Yes.
Hey,
And
Drew,
what's your
your
phone?
mic's on.
Gosh, I'm with all
What's your telephone number?
I don't currently have one. I have my mother's. It's 423-433-7748.
And were you working before you were brought into custody?
No, I'm 6 months pregnant. That's why.
Did you receive any government assistance, disability, SSI, food assistance?
No, not. I get WIC if that counts. If
And how much?
I'm not sure the amount. It's WIC from the Sullivan County Health Department. I'm not really sure how much it is. There's a list of food. I can't remember all of it.
And how long have you been in custody?
12 days.
And do you have any minor children?
I do. I have a 2-year-old.
Say again.
I have a 2-year-old.
Do you have cash, checking, savings account, CDs, anything like that?
I do not.
Do you own any single item of property, such as a car or a house, in excess of $500?
No.
Will appoint public defender, assess $50 administrative fee to pay 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, she is here on a probation violation dated March 6, 2020. She was arrested April 28, 2020. Does she waive a reading and plea of not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
May 27 at 9 o'clock. Thank you, ma'am. May 27 at 9 o'clock. Public defender will come and talk to you.
Okay. Is there any way I can get a bond hearing?
Not without them filing a motion. They have to file them so you can talk to the lawyer when they come and talk to you. Thank you. Jerry Morrell, 72932. Mr. Morrell, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
What's the last four of your social?
6028.
28.
Yes, sir.
And your address?
320 Royal Town Road, Bristol, Tennessee.
Phone number?
My parents is 423-217-0514.
Were you working before you were brought into custody?
No, sir. Just doing other jobs.
Did you receive any government assistance such as disability, SSI, anything like that?
No, sir.
How long have you been in custody?
Been 2.5 months since the 25th of February.
Do you have any minor children?
No, sir.
Do you have cash, checking, savings account, CDs, anything like that?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you own any single item of property in excess of $500, like a car, a boat, or a house?
No, sir, I do not.
Will appoint the public defender. It says $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Morrell has been bound over from General Sessions Court on charges of possession of firearm during commission of a felony, possession of a prohibited handgun, stolen property, which is theft, promotion of methamphetamine manufacture, and unlawful drug paraphernalia. There has not been an indictment. Looks like he has a $100,000 bond set by the General Sessions Court. General, when do you think this might go to the grand jury?
Judge, I just recently got the out-of-state certified priors that I needed, and it's my understanding that there's another agency with jurisdiction that may be taking this case also, but I should be able to get it to grand jury pretty quick if it needs to be.
Let's say June the 11th to see if grand jury is acted or if the other jurisdiction is assumed control. June the 11th at 9 o'clock, Mr. Morrell. Public defender will come and talk to you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Travis Rourke, 71928-72821. Huh? Mr. Rourke, raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, sir?
Sir, do.
All right. What's the last four of your social?
5593.
And what's your address?
162 2nd Street, apartment A1, Bristol, Virginia, 24201.
And your phone?
276-591-8884.
Were you working before you were brought into custody?
I received SSDI. 1,060 some now. Was 1,048 till the first this year.
Per month?
Yeah.
And how long have you been in custody?
Since last Monday.
Do you have any minor children, sir?
No.
Do you have any cash on hand, checking, savings account, CDs, anything like that? No.
Not with me. I've got my stimulus check, and then I got my disability check. My friend's holding it for me till I get out. So I got about $2,000, $2,200.
Do you own a car, boat, house, any other item of property worth over $500?
No, sir.
I'm going to appoint the public defender. Says $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, he has been indicted for failure to appear, Class A misdemeanor, and false report and theft. Does he waive a reading and plead not guilty at this time?
Yes. I was incarcerated in Bristol, Virginia during the time I was in court for the
Mr. Mink, did he waive a reading and plead not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm sorry. I was on mute. We waive and plead not guilty.
Okay. I'm going to set a $2,000 bond because I have been contacted by the clerk or someone prior to Mr. Rourke's arrest and been made aware that he was being released at that time from the Commonwealth of Virginia. I think the jail had actually released the hold on him, and that's why they didn't release him to a hold to be brought to our jail. And then Mr. Rourke came down and voluntarily turned himself in. So Mr. Rourke, you got a $2,000 bond. Now the bond you made before is no good because the conditional forfeiture killed it, but you can make a new $2,000 bond.
Okay, and that's all I have to pay is $2,000 bond?
Yes, sir.
What about the $7,500 bond I had?
I just made $2,000 cover both cases.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rourke, do you think you're going to be able to make that bond?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I don't guess we need to.
Phone call.
I was just going to say, if you couldn't, might be eligible for pretrial release, but you go ahead and make that bond, okay?
Okay.
June 26th at 9 o'clock for announcement. June 26th at 9 o'clock, Mr. Rourke.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jeremy Roberts.
I'm sorry, Judge, who'd you say?
Jeremy Roberts.
He's over here too, ain't he? Take one from on here. Robert? We're gonna have a seat in that chair. Scoot up and talk where they understand.
Raise your right hand, Mr. Roberts. You solemnly swear affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, sir? You're going to have to speak up for me. We can't hear you.
Sir, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Roberts, what's the last four of your social?
8623.
What's your address?
It's 925 Chadwick Drive, Kingsport, Tennessee.
And phone number?
It's 423-378-4130.
Were you working before you were brought into custody?
No, sir.
Do you receive any government assistance, SSI, disability, anything like that?
No, sir.
And how long have you been in custody?
About 11 or 12 days.
Do you have any minor children?
1, 8.
Do you have custody of that child when you're not in jail?
Sir.
Do you pay or receive child support?
No, sir.
Do you have any cash, checking, savings account, CDs, anything like that?
Sir.
Do you own any single item of property in excess of $500, such as a car, a vehicle, a house, anything like that?
No, sir.
I'm going to appoint the public defender. Says $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, Mr. Roberts is here on a violation of probation dated March 6, 2020. Is there just the one? Does he waive a reading, enter plea of not guilty at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
May 27 at 9 o'clock. The public defender will come and talk to you, Mr. Roberts. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Skaggs, 72714.
Or let's see that chair, make sure you come
Raise your right hand, Mr. Skaggs. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, sir?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Skaggs, what is the last four of your social?
8218.
And your address?
It's 221 East Unaka Avenue, Johnson City, Tennessee, 37601.
And your phone?
423-363-3736.
Were you working before you were brought into custody?
Yes, sir, I was.
And where?
It's Go Burrito. It's a little restaurant in Johnson City.
How much did you make a
Minimum
week?
wage. Minimum wage about.
Yeah.
I made about. I'd say about $200 every week.
And did you receive any government assistance, disability, SSI, anything like that?
No, sir.
How long have you been in jail?
About 12 days.
Do you have any minor children?
Yes, I have 3.
What are their ages?
6, 4, and 2. They do not live with me.
Okay, so you do not have custody?
We haven't fought for custody, but they don't live with me. They live with their mother.
Do you have to pay child support?
No.
Do you have any cash, CD, checking account, savings account, anything like that?
No, sir.
Do you own any single item of property in excess of $500, like a car, a boat, or a house?
No, sir.
Will appoint public defender, assess $50 administrative fee to be paid 14 days after release. Mr. Mink, Mr. Skaggs has been charged by the grand jury in a true presentment for solicitation of a minor. It looks like a Class A misdemeanor. Does he waive a reading interplea of not guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
There's a $5,000 fine. There's a $5,000 bond. I'm sorry. I will set this for June 18 at 9 o'clock for announcement. Mr. Skaggs, do you think you'll make that bond?
No, sir. I do not think I will. I cannot get a hold of anybody to come and get me out.
All right. You may want to have a conversation with the public defender when they come and talk to you about trying to get a hold of somebody for you.
Okay.
Thank you. That's all for today.
Thank you.
Next is Brittany Ann Thompson, 72571-72889. Public defender has a conflict in this one.
That's my understanding, Judge.
Raise your right hand, Ms. Thompson. You solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, ma'am? If I get you to speak up just a little bit, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ms. Thompson, what's the last four of your social
0512
and your address?
438 Bay Street, Mount Carmel, Tennessee.
Phone number?
423-302-8593.
Were you working before you were brought into custody?
No, sir.
Did you receive government assistance like disability, SSI, or food assistance?
No, sir.
How long have you been in custody?
12 days.
Do you have any minor children?
Yes, I have one.
And what's its age?
12.
Do you have cash, checking, savings account, CDs, anything like that?
No, sir.
Do you own any single item of property in excess of $500?
No, sir.
Who represented you in General Sessions Court?
I cannot remember his name. I can't remember his name, sir.
Okay. Daniel Cantwell?
Yes, sir, that's it.
I'm gonna appoint Daniel Cantwell. Sets $50 administrative fee to pay 14 days from release in one case. My office will notify Mr. Cantwell that you have been indicted and he has been appointed on the failure to appear. There's still no indictment on the manufacture, delivery, sale, possession of methamphetamine, possession of firearm during felony, and drug paraphernalia. Is there a co-defendant?
Oh, what does that mean? Somebody else that's like with me?
Who was charged at the same time?
Yes, there's Sandy Vermilia is her name, I think. Vermilia is a weird last name.
Vermillion?
Yes, yes, sir.
I don't think she was on my docket today. Can you see her? We'll set this case for June 5th at 9 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge.
Hold on a second. Let me see. $39,500. Total bonds $39,500. Right. All right. Thank you. That's all for today. It looks like.
Judge, before you go, Michelle Gillum was up here earlier. She's got a search warrant. Are you going to be around this afternoon, or?
I'll be around.
Okay. Do you want her to call you, or how do you want her to do that?
Just email it to me, and then I'll read it, and then I'll call her.
Okay. All right.
Y'all have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too.